pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move the new business of the comprehensive plan for 2040 monthly update after the consideration of the minutes.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, I'd like to call the Milton Planning Commission.
And before you start,
Okay.
you don't have to do the whole spiel at all because there's no public here, right? We don't have to do the spiel about public.
Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say, if you haven't opened the meeting, then that motion,
Oh,
Didn't really
okay,
happen.
Call the meeting to order and I'll redo my motion.
Okay, I'd like to call the Milton Planning Commission meeting of July 26th to order.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we move the new business comprehensive plan 2040 monthly update to after the consideration of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Deja vu. All right, so I guess we can just jump right into that then, correct?
Consideration of
Minutes.
Minutes.
No, consideration of minutes, yes. Details. Anybody have any comments or,
Yes, on page 2, in the verbiage here with regard to A, we have compressive plan advisory committee when it should be comprehensive plan.
So we'll fix that.
that's the impressive comprehensive plan. All right,
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as amended by Commissioner Gilbert.
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous too.
We're on a roll.
Yes, together. All right, so now we're bringing the update on the comprehensive land use plan up. To do that, before we get to the exciting text amendments.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner. I'm here to present the Comprehensive Plan Short-Term Work Program Update. I am tasked to do this moving forward. I would like to keep the format that you have liked and worked with so far. But please bear with me because I am new to this. And the spreadsheet needs extensive formatting all the time. So just forgive me if there is something missing or off. Just let me know. So if you find any inconsistencies, I will work on it. So you are all aware of the UDC's progress. I don't really have to go deep into detail. I just updated some of the dates on this slide. And unless you have a question, I can keep going to the next one, other projects.
So I will, since you had it on the
Yeah.
UDC, I was just looking at the dates. They are actually a little bit out of date with our various issues that have come up. And so tonight, we're obviously going to do Article 9. And then what I was looking at was we'll have a work session on August 9th, which is in 2 weeks, if that's okay.
Mhm.
And at that one, we would do Article 10. And I just looked at it, it's not super long. And then I'm suggesting, based on some input from you all, is that even though for environment, Article 11, we're going to do internal staff review except for the tree canopy portion. So I'm proposing that for the work session in August.
9.
Oh, I guess you do have that. Okay.
Yeah, I do have
Oh,
that
that's
one.
all right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was thinking it was all,
No, I
You're on
spoke
top
to
of
you
it.
before I put that in. You forgot.
never mind. So yes. So then administration, we would do it at the 23rd. I don't think we have any other items for the 23rd. So we could, use the entire meeting and then start digging into definitions. Obviously, definitions is pretty large, so we may not finish definitions at the August regular 23rd. So hopefully maybe the beginning of September, we'll have another work session and that would be the last of the review. And then we would start on the official process to have the text amendment go through.
So on August 9th,
Easier.
it'll just be 10?
Correct. 10th, and then also a part of 9, the tree canopy. I'm going to ask
Oh, okay.
for, I'm going
11.
to ask that
11.
Sandra come, our city arborist, so we can make sure everything is tip top. And then we may actually start advertising for this. We have a lot more requirements for advertising, so we'll look at it. But I'm hoping in September we can start advertising for the cycle for adoption. So.
Cool.
Yep.
Great.
So it'll still be another 4 months, 5 months after that with everything. So.
I thought you did CZIM for this one already, right?
But we have to do it again. It's
Okay.
been so
All right.
long. Yeah, we'll just do it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So our next set of update is about the projects that are that have more overlap on economic development as well as communication and marketing in general. These on the right, you are seeing some of the list that is like a sub projects under these categories, and these are the kind of projects that are ongoing, and they need like a constant communication or campaigning of some kind with Milton residents. So I kind of categorized them here together for you, and there are really small updates. Except the marketing plan that's actually waiting for branding study to be completed. And then I have a next slide, which has the same list on the left side. And I'm just telling you the small minor updates or project progress that subcategory has made. So for example, in terms of promoting agribusiness, the project lead, which is communications department, it has they have found a farmers markets location or honey. They supported the honey stand for a bee farm. For the collaboration with the state or other jurisdictions, they have worked on a membership to Georgia Grown Network and partnership with Alpharetta for Mayfield Farm property. This is a new property that they purchased, which is a partnership between Alpharetta. They are in the process of preparing some plan for that property. It's not solidified yet. So, but the purchase has been made. On economic website side, they have made improvements to their web page, and they keep improving it as we go on. Using technology to improve access, they actually for 2024 budget cycle, they have applied for a capital budget request for a kiosk, and then once that pilot project is get successful, they can replicate that in various other places. That's their plan. So they have actually requested funding for that kiosk as a pilot project. Bike friendly campaign, city campaign. They're working with Public Works Department to share information. And Public Works is actually going to have a comprehensive transportation plan down the line this year. So they're going to wrap up a lot of these small things into this transportation plan study. For outreach for road safety, again, they communications been working with Public Works to share this PTV related information. And on the tourism side, they have advertised in the Chronicle of Horse. It's a magazine where they advertised for Milton as a equestrian friendly community. I don't know if you have seen that. But these are the small, progress, but they are kind of, as you can see, they incrementally are making progress towards like a common goal of making, improving the quality of life in Milton. So it's not like a major project objective, but moving forward all the time. Next, actually, two big projects that are under community development, branding study and Deerfield character area, that Windward and Highway 9 strategic plan. They both are going forward very well. The branding study consultant concluded the first round of public engagement, and now they're working on developing 3 concepts, and they're going to come back in fall with the presentation on those 3 concepts. The Deerfield study is also going on well. On Monday, the consultant met with the core stakeholder team and gave them update on market analysis and a summary of the survey that they've been doing so far. And I think Laura is on that committee. I don't know if you attended that meeting, but I was told there was a lot of information. I have yet to actually see that PowerPoint. Next, there is a major accomplishment on the transportation side. After completing the local road safety plan, Public Works worked with GDOT on officially reducing the speed limit on some of the local roads. On July 11th, that's this month, Council approved the proposed changes. So now it goes to GDOT, so for a radar permit, and soon the new speed limits will be, up and running. So on the map you are seeing over here, these 4 segments of the road on the, the Bethany Way, Freemanville Road between the Mayfield and Providence Road, and Providence Road between the Freemanville and the South City limit. And there's part of a Mayfield Road between the State Route 2 and Charlotte Drive are the ones that are getting reduced. Whatever they were, if they were 45 miles, they're going to be 40 miles per hour. So that's got approved recently. And I think that's a very good accomplishment.
I'm noting there on page 17, T7, about the comprehensive transportation plan is slated to complete by the end of this year. Of course, transportation has a significant impact on land use, which is a key concern to us. Does it make sense to have a briefing on that plan?
Yes, it definitely does. So I'm just getting started. So I'm going to actually get every time somebody expert here to explain you in detail whenever there is a major project. And Sarah was actually out, but I tried to reach out to some small leaders in their department to get you some update. But I will definitely work on getting the CDP update for you.
Great.
So as I said, the CDP is actually going to include many of the short-term work program into their study. For example, the bicycling project and the smart features thing into transportation infrastructure, and evaluating Milton residents' priority for satisfying city's transportation infrastructure. Those things can the comprehensive transportation plan can also will actually help solidify many things for these projects. On the design elements for specific character area, they're actually waiting for branding study to complete, so that even if they have to change anything, they can have a major overhaul and everything can be consistent instead of just changing it now and then changing it again later. So that's why they will.
Just on a side note, we should definitely be sure to check with what some of our neighboring cities are doing. I worked with the city of Marietta, and they were describing a smart city feature they did. I guess they're for Malcolm Baldwin Award. I guess they said, well, there's a certain area of the community that's not serviced by fire trucks.
Oh.
So they'd have to build like a $12 million fire station, or they partnered with a company in Alpharetta here. And instead what they did is they put transponders on all their fire trucks. So when their fire trucks are going down the road, they get nothing but green lights. It's all timed and linked, which is pretty cool use of technology. So that's something, I mean, I think those projects are out there. We should definitely poke around and see what others are doing, because there's some real good, innovative stuff that's worthy of looking at.
Yes.
That was my question too. What does smart feature refer to? Is it that?
It couldn't be anything.
Just a variety of things?
It is actually up to the transportation department to explore this alternative, what they can actually bring and what really works for Milton, because not everybody wants the same thing.
Yeah.
So this transportation plan obviously is going to have a community input and engagement. So that's when they will discuss, what does community want, and then obviously the financial factor is going to be there too. So let's see how what they come up with. I don't really have there are so many ways they can actually go for it, but obviously they have to look into what works for Milton.
Okay.
Are they looking at, where are we on EV
Okay,
policy?
that's coming up.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
sustainability
Getting ahead.
project, that's under sustainability. So hold on, what notes I have. So renewable energy related investments, that is EV projects. The project lead on those type of projects is Emily Groth from Public Works, and she went actually this month to council to get their input on. She outlined what are the things that we can do, and the council was very receptive on those ideas. But obviously, there are grants that are available, like the one that I had mentioned over here, Exploring Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. It's a new grant from IIJA. You might have heard that act from the federal government. So this grant can be used for EV projects. So they are working on a pilot project at the city property. And the council was receptive on that, but they have to get the grant for. So they're making application this week for the grant, really. Yep. And also, as I said here, they will discuss the future EV readiness. That's in future EV readiness for public and private spaces. That's an ordinance that we have to work on. EV readiness is a little different than just putting up a charging station. It's EV readiness is like having, when you're building new buildings and offices and mixed use development, have the infrastructure ready for putting those chargers. So it actually we could encourage builders and developers to put that infrastructure in, and then later on someone can come and put those charging stations. So a two-layer approach, right? They are working, well, I don't know about the ordinance, but they're going to discuss that ordinance part with the council, but they're working on a pilot project at the city hall with this grant. Now, they are also waiting for sustainability advisory committee, appointment of those committee members, and some of the capital budget request for investment opportunity in renewable energy. I have to actually look into it a little more. When Sarah comes back, I will check with her what does it entails to move forward this project.
What about conversion of the fleet,
What about?
city fleets?
Yes, they are definitely working on that. And we have actually got many hybrids, actually. We got hybrids, right? Lots of them, yeah. So they are also going to get the grant for energy conservation. They have to, I think they have to write what they're going to do for the grant application. And then when they get the grant, they will do those things, obviously. But I don't have a lot of details about what they're putting in the grant application, but I can get it for next time. They have done a lot of work for recycling and not solid waste management as much, but recycling, they have definitely done a pilot program, and now they are looking into expanding that pilot program and having more collection points and looking into some voucher type programs. For the solid waste management plan, they have put a request for capital funding so that they can actually develop that plan with a consultant.
Does this affect the closed waste management on Honorable Mill? Will that be included in that?
That's, I'm not sure. I know that waste, what is it called?
Chadwick landfill.
Landfill, that's actually closed, and they
Right.
put the green, they have
The
actually
grass.
already grassed that area. Maybe I need to bring that project details for you, because even I don't know much about that. But I remember seeing a picture.
Right, they've upgraded it because they were just going to put a plastic trash bag basically over it. And so
Right.
we negotiated and forced their hand.
looks really nice.
It looks good,
Yes.
yeah.
It really does.
I've seen a picture, but I don't have a lot of details, but let me
Good.
make a note that you want.
Yeah,
to
I'm
know.
not sure if they've given us the exact plan of what they're going to do, if anything, other than covering it up.
Correct.
So,
That's why I thought maybe that study or update, that they probably wouldn't use that or would use that. That's why I was.
yeah, we can get back with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. So those are sustainability related projects. Now on the park and rec side, they have actually they have acquired a couple of properties for recreation. Obviously, these are the properties that you are seeing, and this actually relates to it's a land use. For some reason, this is actually a land use category project, but the Parks and Rec is actually leading this acquisition part of this project. And then once they have acquired it, they go into planning of these parks or whatever recreation facility they are going to have here. So no plan yet, no dates yet, but they just acquired these properties that you are seeing over here.
Great.
Any questions on this?
Nope.
Okay, great. So a few more projects that Parks and Rec is leading. One of them is implementing the signage. Again, they are saying that they want to wait for outcomes of a branding study. There are some signs obviously existing on parks and trails, but if they want to change everything, they want to wait until that branding study so that they can have everywhere consistent branding and signing. So that's where it's waiting for. The next one is equestrian related promotion. So recently they did put up a banner on Birmingham Park when they had a rodeo. They put a banner about a Birmingham Park at Wills Park about when they had a rodeo. And that banner was just talking about that Birmingham Park has equestrian trails, and it was just promoting that. Now they're also looking into creating more programs, but they have to really work with this equestrian committee on that because they can't just create by themselves. Next is public art. Again, they're looking into different ideas and brainstorming different ideas, but nothing solidified yet, nothing on the paper yet. Naming campaign, although is going really well, now they are working on naming Lackey Road property, which is a green space on the Lackey Road. So I think the deadline for suggesting name was last week.
I think so.
Yeah, so now they will obviously have, next step would be shortlisting the names, whatever the process, standard operating procedure that they have created, they will go through that for naming. So finally, some important dates, and the next month's CZIM will actually cover this text amendment, which is going to be adding this property, 840 Mid Broadwell, to the district at Mayfield. And you might ask, what? We just finished this. But this property was actually originally in the district, but then it was by request of an owner. Staff was not involved into taking it out, but it was taken out of the district and hoping to get something done there fast, but nothing was done. And so now, again, from the request from the leadership, we have to put it back in the district. So that's where it's going to happen next month. And another important date is the flag lots. It's going to City Council on August 7th. That's it. That's all I have.
So if that property is added back, what was the design feature going to be? I mean, because I know what the rest of the design was. So what are they going to do on that particular property piece?
We haven't seen anything on the paper, really. It was just a talk. They first talked about just doing residence, 3 single family residents, but we haven't seen anything. Right now, they have applied for a demo permit, which is going through DRB and demo permitting process. But we haven't seen what they're going to do after demo over there.
So not all the parcels within the district at Mayfield was within that really pretty plan. So there were some parcels that are in the district, but were not included in that master plan. So this is one of those parcels that are in the district of Mayfield that would have to go by those new requirements, but there wasn't a specific plan for
They didn't
it.
have a, TSW didn't have it marked on them as part of the plan.
Well, what had happened was they had asked, originally it was part of the district, and then the property owner asked it to be withdrawn because they said that we're going to go ahead and develop it. And then a year plus, they still haven't developed it. And basically, the leadership of the council wanted it back in because, hey, you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's, in reality, it's, in my opinion, it's not going to really impact it much by the new district standards. They're still, they've indicated they want to do residential, just, like 2 or 3 houses.
Yeah, basically, instead of 3-story, they get to do now 2 stories
Right.
Yeah.
because that's what
Yeah.
we settled on, right?
Right. Okay.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, nice job.
good.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you, Ashuba. All right. So next, we've got the text amendments to the zoning ordinance, RZ 23-02.
Yes, so I'm going to have Mr. Fricky walk through this with you since he was the author of it and be able to explain things, why we're even here talking about it in general, so.
Good evening, everyone, and may I say it's a pleasure to present.
David, I don't know.
For anyone that might be listening, I'm Paul Fricky with Gerard and Davis. We're the city attorney, and as Robin did mention, I was involved in drafting the ordinance that's being presented this evening. The purpose of this ordinance is to come into compliance with the recent, well, it's almost no longer recent. Last year, the state legislature updated the zoning procedures law, and part of those requirements impacted how to deal with what they call quasi-judicial hearings, which the city council, when it passes a general ordinance, it's acting in a legislative capacity. when it approves permits, anything specific to a particular piece of property other than a zoning ordinance, development permits, use permits, demolition permits, historic preservation permits, certificates of appropriateness, things of that nature. Those are adopted pursuant to what they've deemed a quasi-judicial process. Before this change to the zoning procedures law, those did not fall under the hearing requirements, did not have specific notice requirements. What they've done is they've now imposed those according to state rules, which say every jurisdiction has to have specific types of rules. It would have been easy if they had made the same rules for legislative decisions as they made for quasi-judicial decisions in terms of notice. They didn't. Legislative decisions have to have same as they didn't change the legislative decisions. It's always been have to have between 15 and 45 days prior notice for legislative decisions, basically rezonings or changes to the code. What they did is they said these quasi-judicial types of decisions have to have minimum of 30 days. It's a different standard. What we have done throughout this is we've created a single zoning standard that the city is going to adopt, which is minimum of 30 days, maximum of 45 days. That satisfies both standards with one set standard, so staff knows, I don't care what the type of hearing we're having, it's 30 to 45 days. We've got to get it in. It's simple for staff. There's less chance of any mix-ups of, oh, I thought it was quasi-judicial, but it was actually legislative. Anyway, so that's one of the things. We had to get some of the requirements to apply to a number of types of public hearings the city conducts, impose public hearings on some of those types of decisions that are actually made, notably with the design review board, and to come into compliance with the requirements. This whole host of changes are largely the same, in those 3 or 4 types of categories. I'm going to kick through all of the ones that are listed here. They shouldn't be too complicated, but I'm happy to answer any questions as I'm going along. And I believe you had in your packet numbered
I gave you the
handwritten
cheat
notes,
sheet.
which actually works well if you skip back a little ways. There's copies of what the code currently says, so you can. It may or may not assist you where something. I tried to put wherever I was just amending something. I tried to include, if I was just adding in some language, that I would just highlight that. But I'm going to start with, this is on page 7 of the agenda packet. It's the first page of the ordinance down at the bottom. First thing we're going to do is add a new section 6426. And we're going to start right out of the gate with a change to what's presented to you. You have a question or
No, I'm
you're getting ready to hear the
write down
change. This was drafted a number of months ago. As you may recall, there was a meeting that the Planning Commission
Didn't have a
quorum
quorum.
wasn't available. So we see. So these were actually drafted probably 3 or 4 months ago. In the interim, in our office, we represent a lot of jurisdictions, and some of the attorneys got together and we started kind of kicking through what did the new ZPL language require. There's a new process, replacing the old. If you've heard the writ of certiorari, I say ancient, process developed in the English common law of ways of appealing these types of quasi-judicial decisions. It was very difficult to comply with the rules. We could generally trip people up with failing to comply with the rules. So a lot of plaintiffs, developers, people that had to follow this process said, "Hey, look, this is silly. Let's bring it into the 21st century and let's do this new." So they changed those appeal rules. That impacts the zoning procedures law because a lot of decisions are quasi-judicial decisions, so they implicate that new process. It's not that much different. They call it a petition for review. They got rid of a few of the steps, but it's largely the same. But one of the things they did note was they wanted to have someone be able to look at the code and be able to see who could they get. There's a requirement that you get a bond and get a certification that all the costs have been paid before you file your lawsuit. What we've done is they said you have to put that in your code so that people can look at your code and find it. Well, we put what made sense, what was always done was, hey, the chairman of the body that issued the decision will then make this decision. But actually, we kind of got to looking at the code and said, it says should be someone who's in the office during business hours. The point was to make it easier for the people to find someone to get this done on an expedited basis. So what I'm proposing to do is, and fire up. Do I have to do anything here?
Getting it, yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is take that highlighted and circled area, and it actually carries over to the next page. Instead of having each of those individuals, just going to make the director of community development, or the community development director, to be the individual that can do this. The one thing that will stay is that the mayor accepts service on behalf of the city as the defendant opposite party. That'll stay the same.
So you don't want me to be authorized to issue appeal bonds and certificates?
That is our proposal. Unless you
Smart
want to
move.
stay, unless you want to be present during regular business hours,
Good
Monday
move.
through Friday,
Good move.
we're going to recommend that Bob or whoever is, however long he's here, and any successor, if there is ever one, to do that. So that is going to be a change that I do want to make. But anyway, that is to comply with the requirements of code saying we have to name them so that a citizen or anyone that is going to appeal can look at the code and see who they can bring it to.
But we
That's
keep
in
the
both-
mayor, so we keep the
both A
mayor
and-
and say, yeah, because I think you had it within that circle, so.
Yeah,
Right,
and
we
this
keep
is
the
up to you.
mayor.
I mean, you can keep the mayor. It's not required that the mayor be.
Oh, okay, so
designated.
we can take out the mayor?
We can,
Okay,
but I mean, and then this may, and if y'all have an opinion, if you want to say the mayor is also authorized, the city, I mean, kind of the options, I think, well, I don't know, does the mayor keep regular?
No,
So
he's
that
not
was
here
gonna
all
say,
the time
then
either.
He wouldn't really
Okay.
qualify.
Right.
yep.
So is it necessary, since this is naming one person, that there be a backup, or is it okay?
Is it
that
necessary
it's-
that they what?
Is it necessary, we're naming a person, a position. Does he sometimes leave someone in charge that has the authority to act on his behalf? Do we need is it just him, or is it him or his designee, or?
For purposes of this, we leave it as just the director.
Okay.
If they're out, then,
Come back tomorrow.
yeah, I mean.
Or a
and if
delegation
they're
of
out for a
authority.
week, I mean, there can be ways to work around this, but this is, we're not going
This is
to
the language.
require
Okay.
an absolute attendance, but it's generally available.
Now, Paul, is that for both A and B?
Yeah.
It is
Yes.
going to change both A and B.
Yep. Okay.
So I guess my question for you is, what was the thinking prior to that before you changed?
Yeah, it was standard way it had been done in the past is the chairman of, so say the chairman of the planning commission, if it was something that the planning commission issued, it would be the mayor. If it was something the city council had issued, it was the DRB, it was the BZA.
So
that
many
issued
times,
variance.
yeah.
That's what we've done in the past. And so it's kind of like, well, they're the ones that are familiar. It'll make sense to have them sign off and they'll remember the case and say, yeah, I remember that, and have less explanation. So that was the standard process and the way it was done. And that's the way the code was previously written.
Okay.
So we kind of kept it with that, just kind of not really thinking through the whole specific language in the hours.
Logistics.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't really as concerned about it. All right, that's one. The rest, hopefully we can kick through a little bit quicker. Number two, Basically, this has to do with the design review board. It does issue, in this case, certificates of endorsement to wherever the design review board does anything more than provide comments. If they have a public hearing and issue something like, i.e. certificates of endorsement, and I think we get around to demolition permits. We're establishing them as they have a quasi-judicial function, and we're going to make them have a hearing with a requisite notice. That's what we've done here for certificates of endorsement. Number 3, and throughout, there's also, there's a number of provisions for administrative actions that may be taken. There's some question as to whether an administrative action can be taken if it's issuing a permit, issuing an administrative variance, issuing. We have taken the position that what we will do is we will consider an appeal of that decision, the statutorily required hearing, if anybody wants one, in the process. So we've added a number of places. You'll see on the next page, you'll see where we've just put a note, by the way, this is subject to appeal pursuant to the regular administrative appeal standard. That's the reasoning for putting that. I mean, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't. I mean, they always did have this right. It's just by noting it in the section, we're kind of teeing up any argument that we might make, saying, see, there was always this hearing available. So nothing new about it other than to put it in a nice, convenient place for us to point to if someone were to challenge it. Saying that was 3. 4 and 5 are basically in the adult bookstore and adult entertainment establishments. We just put in the standards related to notice and the public hearing process. It's the same standards for everything, but just said, since there's a public hearing, these are the requirements for a public hearing. Code, the ZPL was amended to say all of the, if you give them something to apply, you have to put the notice requirements in the ordinance. You can't just adopt it in your bylaws. So we're putting it in the ordinance now. You'll see 6, 7, and 8, and 9. 9, the first part of it, are all adding that appeal language, which I mentioned before. Nothing new. They always had those rights. 9, the addition of section D was, again, to put into the code the requirement that there's 10 minutes each side. It has to be in the code, not just a matter of practice or policy or in the bylaws. Section 10, this is a place where we change the 15 to 45 days becomes 30 to 45 days, just to make sure they fit both requirements. Basically, that's the same thing with 11. The code at the new ZPL, another thing they added was a specific requirement that a property owner get notice of hearing for changes to their property.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, one likes to think that they they either signed the application or signed something authorizing someone else to submit an application, but it's in there. So we're just putting this into the code as a requirement so that the city knows. I mean, they already send out notice to everybody around them. It's just to formally state that they're going to send one to the applicant too, or the property owner.
And there's a
as well.
sign on the property too.
Yeah, and there'll be a sign sitting on the front of the property. They should have. That, you know, we didn't write the ZPL change. 12 is again to add just into the code the specific hearing type requirements. Let me talk one more change that we need to look at. Number 13 there, that actually doesn't change anything. It deletes and restates it exactly as it says. And I'm trying to think back 3 months or 4 months ago. I think when we talked about this, that the concept was the CZIM doesn't
make any decisions. It
doesn't make any decisions, doesn't conduct a public hearing. It just has a meeting.
Right.
So actually, we don't need to change that. I'm proposing that that's number 13 goes out.
Okay.
So we're
13.
Because it already says that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the same wording that's in there, so there's no need to delete
Okay.
and readopt the same language.
Okay,
When I was going through and drafting this, I'm like, yeah, leave that. We don't need to make a change. So 13 won't appear going forward if that's the.
Paul, and back up on the 12
Yep,
in red,
yep.
is, has that always been a minimum of 10 minutes?
That is, well, I don't know if, I think this is our standard hearing requirements. It has been the rule, I believe it's in your bylaws. What the
Yeah.
code says is you have to put it in your ordinance now.
Right. It's
The-
in the bylaws and, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not in the code right now.
Right. Yeah, that's why we're,
I mean, that's by practice, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not in the
Okay.
code.
it's always been the rule, and it's always been what we've done. It's just that now the specific zoning procedures laws says you must put this in your code. So we do. 14, we're just going from the 15 to 45 now becomes 30 to 45. 15 is, again, adding the notice to the subject property owner in addition to all of the people within the certain radius. 20A2H, this is, we reworded this just to match the current ZPL requirements for what goes on in the hearing notices. It's not going to change anything in practice. It's just to match the ZPL language. 17, I mentioned that we're putting the hearing requirements for demolition permit applications. So that's going to change that the DRB is going to see. It's going to be a little bit more formal. The Historic Preservation Commission, they have a couple of things that they would do. The designation of a historic district and the issuance of certificate of appropriateness for them. Both of those, they have a public hearing, they issue either a permit or a certificate or designation at the end of it. So we're going to have them comply with the zoning procedures requirements for quasi-judicial decisions as well. And those are the changes.
And then I think there was a suggestion about, I put it in the memo to revise that chart that we would go ahead. And I believe I fixed it to be reflective of the new requirements. And so we would replace the existing one with this new one, so.
And I didn't, was it anything other than noting
The days, I don't think
is
so,
that
no.
the
Yep,
only place where the changes where I've got orange highlights there?
yep,
Basically, it just changed it from 15 to 45. 30 to
Yeah.
45.
Mr. Chairman, I move we recommend approval of RZ 23-02 with the changes to 64-26 to delete in both subsections A and B, the words "the mayor, the chairman of the planning commission, the chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and/or the chairman of the Design Review Board as appropriate," and replace it with the director of community development, and to strike the amendment to section 64-2082B.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion, any questions, any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul.
but you still have to stay. No, I'm just joking.
Now we can get through Article 9 that fast, right?
Okay. Through this one. Okay, so the next item is RZ 2303, a text amendment with respect to the following alcohol-related uses of limited food service restaurant and limited tap establishment within Chapter 64 of the City Code. So basically, the proposed creation of these two use permits and definitions are a result of providing the opportunity for the owners of these uses to have the ability to move physical locations if necessary. These types of uses are only currently permitted within Crabapple Form-Based Code T4 open. And also, please note that only establishments that were initially licensed on or before January 1, 2022 pursuant to Chapter 4 will be considered. So we created the definitions because they were not in the last adopted alcohol-related items of the zoning ordinance back in October of 2022. Since that time, the mayor and city council did make an amendment to Chapter 4 since October. I think it was earlier this summer to allow the ability of an existing limited tap establishment or limited food service restaurant to be able to move locations. And one of the requirements is basically if that one of these establishments is closed for more than 3 months, then basically they're gone and cannot be applied for or requested. And so I think it was,
Do we have any limited tap establishment now?
we do. So that is, if you can believe it, the White
The bike
Tail
shop?
Bicycle
Bike
Shop.
Yep.
And
Right.
yes.
What-
And so we didn't really foresee them moving at the time. And so that's why this summer there was an amendment to the alcohol ordinance to allow the same owner to be able to move locations of that of establishments and or limited food service restaurant. And so they have actually, there is a legal ad up in front of the bicycle shop as we speak now. I think they're going to be heard in August sometime. And so that is the purpose of that. And then the limited food service restaurant, we know that they have closed. I did a little research. It appeared they had some events as late as July 1st, so it hasn't quite been the full 3 months. So, I mean, we don't anticipate them reopening, but I think it was suggested by Commissioner Gilbert. It's like, okay, well, why do we have this? Which is a great question, since our only establishment like this of the limited food service is now closed. But I think until we pass that 3-month mark, we kind of have to keep it in there. So
is that 3 months? Is that 3 months of activity, 3 months of being open for business? I know.
I think of
sounds-
open for business, and I don't think it's been 3 months either way, whether it was earlier in June. I didn't get a chance to check with finance today to see if they had any paperwork, saying, okay, we've closed, we don't need a business license anymore or whatever, or even I think they have to report monthly their alcohol sales.
Right.
So it maybe by the time council hears it in September, it will have been 3 months, but at this point, it was Billy Allen's over here. Yeah.
Good. No, go ahead.
Robin, why do we need to designate the limited service restaurants as permit? Why not just blank?
So, right. I think that's something we can look at. We can recommend that it just be blank, since the intent is not to have any new
Yes.
businesses. So, yeah, we can do that.
So they were the only ones?
They were the only ones.
Well,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah. And right now, the only place that they're permitted is Crabapple, Form-Based Code, and T4 open, so.
I just
There's
wondered-
one on Highway 9.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, the 30
Which
days.
somebody needs to enforce.
Does it make any sense to put any wording around open to the public? So otherwise, somebody could have a facility like that, have a meeting of 3 people once every 90 days, and then that would allow them to continue.
Right.
More
So would it-
money
would it help?
from than they do.
Defining what that 30 or that 90 days.
What that means when it's.
Yeah, is it open to the public? Is it, Just a thought.
Right. No, that's a good point.
But that's not in front of us today. That hasn't been advertised yet.
Yeah, I don't have any defined, exact evidence to show exactly when they stopped or closed, or I thought it was earlier, more in June, but according, the pictures were from inside the establishment, so it wasn't like they were posting from somewhere else, but,
Are they still on the Georgia rolls as a company or a business?
I don't know if they're required to, report to the Secretary of State that they've closed or not, so.
Right, when they still,
Oh,
Have to on their alcohol license.
Right.
yeah, they have to be paying DOL
Okay.
for labor.
Did,
If they haven't done quarterly
right.
944s, then they're not in business, basically.
Okay.
Well, the other is that if I remember in January, they applied for the extension of their liquor license.
Well, yeah, every year they have to have a new
Okay.
liquor license.
So that's why,
yes.
back to the point that they have to be reporting that if they're
Right.
still in operation.
True. Yeah.
What, quarterly?
Or is
Usually
it monthly for the liquor, or is it quarterly?
State, I
No.
think, is monthly on liquor.
Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
so
would
it's
you like
monthly.
me to
For-
do a little more digging and defer this?
I think it's worth it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, Paul, if we defer this, do we have to advertise again and wait 30 days? Or is it because the planning commission is asking to defer it?
Not yet.
No, I mean, consider this to be the public hearing.
Okay.
You want to defer a decision.
Right, to
That's
defer
fine.
the decision. Okay,
Yeah.
to the next meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
I just don't want to have to
Oh, they-
advertise another 30
Right.
days and we can't make it in time and blah, blah, blah. Okay,
Yeah.
we've had the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
What if we went ahead, what if we didn't defer this? What if we had a vote on this, on a recommendation?
Oh, and have
then
it
still
to
get
do,
the
because
background
it'll
information. I don't know
still,
if we
it
would
won't go to
I think-
council till,
Wasn't
I
it
think September.
September 26th or something.
So could we make a recommendation, to recommend or deny, recommend approval of this and still ask for the additional information? Or is that materialistic enough to change this? Or we'd have to go over again?
You could probably make a recommendation with a caveat or with a.
I mean, I don't really see the point of denying it and recommending to get the information, maybe to recommend approval, but to have staff, get the information.
That seems to me to be a better approach, rather than having to
And then
this
we can
again.
just recommend that we take the U out of the table
Mhm.
and then just keep everything the same. Okay,
Okay,
okay, so basically we'll delete the U for limited food service restaurant under, actually it's T5, I'm sorry, the limited tap was only T4 open.
Right.
So we'd make that blank, and then I can work on trying to find out their revenue for their liquor and see when the last time they reported it, so.
Robin, when, on Article 8 that we looked at last week, while I wasn't here, in the front, there are these pages,
Right,
and in there, they do not list limited service, limited service restaurant in here or a limited.
that's
tap.
exactly why we're adding it in.
Okay, so it will. appear in
It'll
here now.
it'll get caught up with it, yeah. Yeah, so that's prior to this adoption, obviously, yeah, yeah.
okay, does anybody have a?
Robin, as we move down on limited food service and the definition on 7B, any games of chance, Does that include lottery?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it's whatever's, but that's the intent is.
Okay.
Lottery or,
Well,
you know, machines and et cetera, so.
I just want to make sure.
It's the same thing for like the liquor stores. We
Yeah,
have the
right,
same
okay.
requirements, so. Okay,
All right, any other questions, comments, motions? Anyone want to make a motion?
Right.
All right,
It is recommended that RZ 23-03 be approved as submitted with the exception in Article 19, Section 64 Article 19, that limited food service restaurants will not be, have a U, but be blank, not permitted.
okay. There's a second?
Second?
Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous also.
Can we make a note on that?
I
to
will do that to
investigate
look into the
due
revenue
diligence?
issue.
New business.
Now comes the
All right.
fun.
So the next item is to review UDC Article 9, Site Development.
I can't believe anybody doesn't want to come to these meetings.
Oh, it's so,
I think Miss Kronk is on vacation.
public is so
Ms. Cronk is on
disengaged.
vacation and now she's been appointed to the
I
Design
know, to the
Review
Design Review
Board.
Board, yes.
Good for her. So, okay, I know we've got, you have other
Fine.
comments? Or the comments from
Yeah, this
the
was.
online comments?
Okay.
I'll make some overall comments on Section 9 that
Okay,
rather than doing it on every page, because almost every page, the page break is at the wrong place.
okay,
So if you would check page breaks throughout, and that might also then address the first one, which is
right.
all of the page numbering, but page breaks are wonky. And then near the end of the document, starting on what is labeled 957, it goes from 2 column to 1 column. So that just has to be fixed as well.
So page 39,
57,
57, I'm sorry.
it goes from 2 columns to 1 column.
Yeah, and so that's what happened, let's see. Let me look at to see what it is.
Consistent
Interesting,
formatting
yeah, I don't know why that did that,
conventions.
yeah.
please.
Convention, that may have been in a word.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Like you were done that was from that.
yeah.
All right.
Okay,
So,
any other overall?
Since this was my area, and I sent in those included in the comment section of the ones that I had questions about or something.
You mean this?
Mm-hmm.
So this came from
This is
online?
outside.
Right.
it was in addition to, your changes should have been incorporated into this, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't think we got, did you send an email with all the comments?
Yeah,
Of your comments?
sure
Way
did.
back, way back. though.
back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. In fact, it's 2 full pages.
Okay, well, we'll just have to walk through them, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
So this is your meeting now.
I
Frank.
asked her, no.
Maybe some of them are already dealt with.
Yeah, that's what well, because
Added in here.
as
Yeah,
we
I
spoke
don't
at the
think
last
so.
meeting.
Well, let's-
She may have added them she may have added them
She
to
might have.
the
Who
last
did you give
part.
them to?
You,
Well, obviously.
at the time, you said, okay. I got him.
Oops.
Sorry, Fred.
It's okay.
Well, where do I start? From page one?
Yeah, apparently, yes.
Well, and the other thing too is that those were done from the original.
Okay.
So,
When the first time we went
Yeah.
through everything. Okay.
exactly.
So you're saying none of
So-
those things got fixed?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that my notes are from the original, which could have been.
Updated already. Oh,
So
That's
they
what-
could have, some of them could have been
Mhm.
fixed, yes,
Prior to
okay.
modification. Ah,
Okay, well, let's just
yep,
dig
just
in.
power
and-
through and walk through them.
makes sense.
So,
So,
9-1, oh, so your page numbers might not match up with these page numbers.
Yeah.
first match.
The first one I had was on 9-3 on the chart,
Okay,
vehicle parking requirements, personal care, home, assisted living. Is there any ADA requirements necessary on that? If so,
so that's, I think it's on a separate, that, those are required separately. It's not like in addition, they have to have the ADA, but there's a requirement for ADA of what is required for the base. So, the fire marshal enforces that. So if you only have 10 spaces, you may only need one handicap.
right,
And if you
right.
if you have
that's what,
300 spaces, you may need 10. So he's the one who enforces that.
okay.
Yep.
I think can we just jump back to page 2? Because
Yeah.
there were a number of online comments about page 2 that were not just formatting issues.
Yeah,
I want to be sure that those were brought
I
in.
would agree.
These numbers match, but what is the 64-1410 for multifamily residential with 40+ units per acre? Multifamily residential with fewer than 40 per acre is on the chart on 64-1410, but
Let me look to see what it has on the. Section.
I've got it here.
You got it, okay. Yep, okay, so. Residential, so yeah, and we have to go to the apartments. Got it, Keep on going. There it is, okay. I see, so there's two different, yeah, so residential multifamily fewer than 40 acres. I see, it didn't get included,
okay.
so there's a section.
So we just need to add in that less than 40 units per acre onto the chart?
Yeah. So he just did the 40+ units per acre and didn't do the fewer than 40. So this is the 40+ per acre to include less than. Categories. Okay. Okay,
All right,
that,
Okay, on 1, it's just page 4 on the chart. We start out alphabetically, and then we change, shouldn't all that be alphabetical as it is above R, S? But we start out commercial uses, A, then we go to B, then we jump back to all A again. Wouldn't it be better to have that all in?
So I think that they're all As. Oh, I see, all restaurants. Well, there's subcategories. So,
I just think it'd be easier to read if
Can we back up to 9.2? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go back,
no, no.
back to 2.
On page 9.2, under 9.1C, when an existing building use or site is increased in area or improved site, is it just supposed to be or improved? Strike site?
I think so.
yeah, I know, I'm just seeing what the original additions, applicability. Gonna be up above. Yeah, it's gonna be above the chart. Yeah, I would agree to delete
Okay.
the site, the word site.
Okay.
I have a general question on just derived numbers on parking on the chart. Like kind of where we got some of these. Because I think somebody talked about the, senior living, alternative senior housing, and I guess I'm just trying to put in perspective, like how do we arrive at these numbers?
So we haven't changed anything from what we had previously as far as the data, as far as the requirements. So I can't really, this is probably 25 years old. We adopted it from Fulton County.
okay.
So other than what's within the form-based codes, where we have the 3.5 for pretty much commercial retail, blah, blah, blah. This applies to everything else, and this is very old data. So I think if that's something that,
I would put that on an update
A
because
list,
the
yeah.
parking thing gets really hot with people. I mean, it's a sore spot for a lot of people. And I do think, there's a couple of buckets, like the senior housing, just due to my own experience, unfortunately having to deal with family members that were in either assisted living or nursing home. The parking can be a real issue. And I mean, if you can't find a spot to go see your loved one, and I won't name city names, but it's not this city, but it was another city. But it was a huge oversight, and they never fixed the problem. And I've seen it in more than one city. And I just think how to not go down that bad path would be something to look at. My other question, and just on parking in general, and I know this is old, but I'm surprised that they don't even have one spot on small cell facilities or telecom facilities. Like you do repair and maintenance on those facilities. I mean, I've worked in that industry, but I'm surprised there is not like one spot.
okay.
'Cause you got to have a truck. You got to do maintenance, and they have no spot. I just found that kind of strange, but
Okay.
if you're going to look at the whole thing, I would look at all
so
of
I'll
it.
just
Okay.
write that as.
Yeah.
Good. No,
Robin, in that point, you're to look at this broad area. as we've gone through multiple meetings that we've had, there have been other points that have been put in the parking lot as well. Do you
Okay.
have a list of what's in the parking lot so we can all just follow along as to what we've got there, make sure everything is parking lot.
Oh,
we
in the
all think is
Parking
there.
lot, the policy changes, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have some. So I have,
Is that a good presentation for the next meeting, just to recap those?
okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, now, again, going back to page 2, though, of
Okay.
what was committed online, let's walk through this. Again, if somebody it takes this much time to put it in there, I think we need to at least address it, and I think a lot of our points are well taken. So, I think we're on the third one. Does this mean 4 or 5 bedroom units, even if they exist, require only 2 parking spaces? I think she's talking about the first unshaded line on table 9.1.2B.
I think she's actually at the very last line of 9.2, 2 per 3 bedroom unit or larger unit.
Right, so it
Okay.
does say, the very first one under residential, I think that's what she's speaking
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
So only require 2 space total. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, should this be Article 9.1.1B.1?
Actually, I looked at it and they are trying to refer to the whole section 9.1, not just this, not that. It's referring to this section.
Yeah,
If you read the language, so
1.2.
the answer to that is no.
Okay, so we're good at that. Okay. Page 3, there's a number of them. I'm trying to go through and see which, real quickly, if any of these are just formatting, but it's on, unless something has changed but not been recorded yet in the city muni code, section 16-1410 says 1.3, 1 per 3.5 fixed seats in the largest assembly area.
See,
So-
okay. Yeah, no, I think that was a typo, so it should be 1 point. Yeah, so you
Okay,
can,
so 1.35, good catch.
well, I think it says 1 per, under church, temple, or other place of worship. But if you go to the chart. This. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So to a church or
church.
place of worship, I don't know what they call it under here. It's a church. Churches, it is, so it is 3.5, yeah, so that's a
Okay,
good, yeah.
great. The next one is the immediate after universities, also the chart in section 64-1410 does not clearly specify requirements for colleges and universities. Can this be verified?
There's a period, there's a random period there. There's also a random period after other place of worship.
Yeah,
So that's the first one. But then she's saying that it wasn't in the other chart.
Okay. So. Chart in 64-1410 does not clearly specify requirements for high schools. Can this be verified?
go to schools.
Well, I see public or private high school right there.
Yeah.
Is that the, I think she's asking, is that the accurate 1.5 per 1,000 square feet for special school or
Schools and university.
I think it's all for everything.
Yeah.
Larger of 2 per classroom or 1 per 35 square feet, and largest assembly area of 10 per classroom.
So are those accurate?
I think it's all dumped
largest
into
area.
one.
5 per 1,000 square feet.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think what they have here is correct.
Okay, what's on the chart? Okay, then there's another period after worship, church, temple, and other places of worship.
Yeah.
And then, is it considered to be dormitories and related? Section 641014, which lists dormitories, fraternity houses, sorority houses, boarding houses. If so, the amounts are 1 per bedroom plus 5 per 1,000 square foot in community area, which does not match this. If not, where are the boarding houses like these addressed in the chart?
So 641410, which I just opened up, does not have colleges and universities. It has dormitories and related fraternity houses, sorority houses, and boarding houses, and it does say 5 per 1,000 square feet of common area plus 1 per bedroom.
Okay.
It actually has it in the other order. But if you didn't, and if a college and university was just schoolrooms, they wouldn't have a bedroom, so they wouldn't need a parking spot for that. They just need it for the square feet, the common areas.
Should there be dormitories on the list on the public institutional uses? Should there be another line item on there? If there is not,
I don't think we permit boarding houses, so I don't think they need to be on the list.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably would be under the residential too. The dormitories and fraternity houses, sorority boarding. I guess there's already boarding housing, rooming house, but that's not the same thing. We need to include dormitories, fraternity houses. Sorority houses. Okay. I got that, to include
Okay.
that.
the next one is museums are listed separately from libraries and are with indoor recreational facilities, which are 5 per 1,000 square feet instead of 4 per 1,000 square feet. Should museums be listed on a separate line?
I had called that out in the tables
Right.
in 8, and I think he did split it in the latest
Okay, so we need
revision.
to have
So
the,
if it's split in 8, and it should be split here probably, but unless the parking's the same. If the parking requirements are the same, you don't necessarily need it to be
It looks
different.
different here.
I didn't bring 8 with me, but I remember making that comment in 8 about libraries had different.
3 per 1,000. What's museum?
So she's saying actually the requirements are different, so split them out here too, but he had combined them in the other.
So that's a recommendation, to split them out
I
in a
can't
separate
find the
line
museums.
Split them
on
out
the
in
original
separate,
yet.
and make them with what it says.
and then match them up.
It's the same amount,
It's a,
right?
Well, they're not.
whatever
this-
it says in 1410, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it got combined and needs to be split and then,
I don't see museums even being in the original zoning. There's no requirements.
she said that museums were under the line incorporated in indoor recreational facilities, including museums.
Or recreational.
Yep.
Do you see it? What is it, the requirement?
Recreational facility indoor 5 per 1,000 square feet. Along with billiard parlors, game rooms, arcades, skating rinks, physical
Okay.
fitness centers, and museums.
Or what was that?
Recreational facilities indoor.
Okay.
So maybe,
Oh, I see. It was a subset. Yeah, I would say it would have to be another line.
Separate.
yeah.
Okay, the next comment she has is museums, could not find this in section 641410 with 1.4 per unit. Saw residential retirement home, but that was 1.25 per dwelling unit. Is this listed somewhere else in Muni code?
So what line is she
But it's-
referring
wait, yeah,
to?
Thanks.
What is she looking for? I don't think.
I don't know.
Oh, the very top line, senior housing, probably.
Is 1.4? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Senior housing could be the same as residential retirement, but it's a different requirement.
So we'll just have to ask, where did they get the 1.4?
Or should it be